Joining me now is Ken Kremer. He's a research scientist with Space Up Close. Ken, good to have you back on the show with us.
Oh, thanks very much for having me on this wonderful day.
A wonderful day indeed, because that was 50 years ago when the U.S. landed on the moon. So what is the next giant leap? What can we expect with regards to the moon exploration?
Well, the next giant leap is to go back to the moon. We should never have stopped going to the moon. There's so much benefit to humanity from going to the moon. So the next step is we're building the SLS rocket, NASA, and the Orion crew capsule, deep space crew capsule. And the goal now under the Trump administration is to land the first woman and the next man on the moon by 2024. So we're developing the rocket and the capsule. The next step is going to be develop a lunar lander. That's what we need to land on the moon. So that's the piece that's missing right now.
Well, are you disappointed that it's been 50 years since this U.S. moon landing, and really there hasn't been a significant stride or a giant leap in all this time regarding space exploration? I mean, does that surprise you?
It very much surprises me and very much disappoints me. I was a kid when we landed on the moon, and I remember looking up the moon and seeing, the astronauts were there that day. I was looking at it. So I was very excited, and I thought we would be at Mars by now. So that's very disappointing. It's all a political decision not to go. But now we're going back. And so finally, we're making progress. Now, we've done a lot of great things in space, but what's lacking is going beyond Earth orbit.
Well, the reason perhaps that there hasn't been much progress in the last 50 years has been the end of the Cold War, because it was the Cold War that spurred the space race. Without the competition between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, there seemed to be a lack of motivation for the U.S. government to allocate the resource needed. NASA's had a number of budget cuts throughout the years. But now, Ken, we've got China amping up its space exploration, and President Trump is pushing for a space force. So do you see NASA being seen as a bigger priority now?
It certainly seems to be a bigger priority. And, NASA has requested an extra $1.6 billion to carry out this mission, the Artemis mission, Project Artemis, to land on the moon. So, the end of the Cold War, but that's not an excuse to stop investing in science. The only way we as humanity will advance is investing in science. So, the Cold War wasn't there, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't invest. So that was a political decision. I was very sad, but the Chinese are going. I'm glad they're going. It provides some competition and some impetus to the U.S. politicians to refund this program.
Well, Ken, it seems like the next space race is, in fact, between billionaires in the private sector. We've got tech startups and private businesses spearheaded by billionaire entrepreneurs like Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, SpaceX. So what is the next finish line? If the last space race finish line was landing a man on the moon, what is the finish line, in your opinion, for the private space race?
Finish line for the private space race. Well, the private companies are doing a great job helping us get back first to Earth orbit. Boeing and SpaceX, you and I watched a SpaceX launch. Those are commercial rockets and commercial capsules to get us back to the International Space Station. Right now, we're dependent on the Russians. So what they can do is play another big role in getting us back to the moon. Jeff Bezos is developing a lunar lander. NASA is very interested in that, to land cargo and crew. NASA is also using the commercial companies to build what we call the Lunar Gateway. It's a mini space station in lunar orbit. So we're going to use the NASA rockets to get there, and we're going to use the commercial rockets to build this gateway. And then NASA's also got contracts with the commercial companies to build a lunar lander to actually get there. So it's really good we have these commercial companies involved to help us cut the cost. And when we cut the cost, we can do a lot more. So I'm really glad the billionaires are interested, because
Ken,
that's moving things along.
What about space tourism for private individuals? Because all of these billionaires have suggested that that's a goal of their programs. How far away are we from that?
Well, we've already had space tourists on the International Space Station. They've flown on the Russian Soyuz, about 7 or 8 of them that stopped then when we didn't have the shuttle anymore. So that'll go on in the future. I mean, space tourism is nice, but that's not, to me, what is the driving impetus. It's to get scientists back to the moon. Tourism will be good. They'll be able to pay a little bit, defray the costs a little bit. But really, we want to get scientists back to the moon and build out that moon base and then go to Mars. That's the ultimate goal, is to go to Mars.
So why is it so important to go to the moon? Is it just as a base on the journey to Mars? Or, I mean, what are you hoping as a scientist can be learned from future moon landings?
Well, there's a lot of science we can do on the far side to explore the universe, but there's also a lot of water that we can mine at the South Pole. That's where we want to send the first woman and the next man in 2024 to land on the South Pole. We know there's tons of water there, but we need the people there and the equipment to extract that water from the lunar soil and take it on from there.
All right, Ken, thank you so much. Ken Kremer, appreciate it.